I too have that same policy. However, hearing the correspondence that have come out of Congress, and I do trust Congress that when they say that they have reached out to Great Britain and not had a favorable response, I find that our peaceable means of reconciling the situation are falling on deaf ears.
I throw it over to the crowd. Do you trust Congress? I was thinking taxation with representation.
I will have to concede on that point.
You mentioned differences in the way the Army is set up in New England versus the way that it's set up in Old England across the pond. There are very strong and old concerns about a standing army and what that can do to a republic, how it can lead, some people say inevitably, to despotism. Do you prefer what the structure of the army in New England, and then we'll hear from Colonel O'Shaughnessy about the professional one?
Well, it's a law from the King, from England, from Parliament, that every male from the age of 16 through 60 must be part of the trained band or the militia. We don't have a choice. I can't choose that I don't want to join. I must do it. Why? Because England, Great Britain, will not send troops to defend us. We must defend ourselves against French, against Spanish, against the Red Indians. In Great Britain, if I am correct, you have a choice. Unless, of course, it's the Royal Navy, and then you don't have a choice. You drink too much, you end up in the Royal Navy. But you have a choice in the Army, whether you wish to join or pick another vocation. Here in the colonies, we have no other choice. As I said earlier, that my vocation is a haberdasher, working in clothing, but I must take part in my duty to king and country as part of the militia. Ironically, the same militia that was set up, the same system set up by the king, is now working against him.
Indeed, yes, and I will pick from that. I thank you for pointing out that the militia are not a purely American invention.
We are not, sir.
The militia laws here and the prevalence of militia are dictated by geography. It is very, very difficult for an army to defend these colonies from 3,000 miles away. We wouldn't get here on time, as you might imagine. So
It's hard enough on Bunker Hill to get here. It took 6 hours.
Exactly. Right. You can imagine. You can only imagine. But you are correct in your concerns of the despotism that follows an army. We share such concerns. Our army is well controlled and kept mostly in our holdings and such Ireland and such areas where it is required. I might touch back to an army and republicanism and despotism. One might reach only a little bit into our mutual past, to our own Civil War. A certain gentleman named Oliver Cromwell, regicide, Republican, and leader of the new model army, which became just the despot he became the despot that you fear. He became the despot that you fear. So I will cede you the point that a standing army is a great threat, and that your militia are actually not a bad idea. And I do regret that they have gone over to a revolutionary cause. They are valiant men, and we have fought next to them. I would disagree that we have never fought by their side. We have, on many occasions. But you've done quite well by yourselves. This image of the peaceful farmer with his weapon hanging over the mantle is not quite right. You gentlemen have fought for every bit of soil here since the moment you arrived. Against the French, against the Indians, the Spanish, and everyone else. Done very, very well for yourselves.
Thank you, sir.
But now that we have together driven away new friends and all of that, now you choose this moment to create a great division between us. I would say the regular army looks upon, and the regular army, by the way, is actually constituted. I should explain, let me back up a bit. Paul Revere, that man who went riding and a little out to the countryside.
And that is not illegal as of yet.
No, there's this image of him running down, or riding, I should say, down the road, yelling, "The British are coming, the British are coming." In fact, he said, he stopped only at certain houses, and his words were that the regulars were out. Now, that means us, the regular army, as opposed to the militia. And most armies in Europe are built on this model. There is a regular professional army of regiments, and those regiments very often began their life as militia companies, raised by some nobleman or someone high in the government, and then were never retired out, perhaps, whereas militia tends to come and go as the emergency arises. So we are the standing regular army. We are organized by regiments. Those regiments are brigaded together. They're run by brigadiers, as was happened here on Bunker Hill. The militia has, throughout history, complemented and worked with the regular army. And it would be fascinating and wonderful if you could just remember that history.
I shall.
Now, the Massachusetts now has constituted a regular army, but only through the end of this year.
For a short period of time, and I fear, and I should not say this in front of my colleague, I fear that once their short enlistment term is up, many of them will go home to their farms and to their places of business.
Yes.
You don't think that the war will be over by the end of this year?
One would hope so. However, based upon the British tenacity of the regular army, 3 charges up the hill, I don't think that it would be over before Christmas or the end of the year.
I can almost guarantee you that will not have to be the case. And I think that His Majesty's government and the officers look on with great interest towards January of 1776 to see what happens. Good luck to you, Mr. Washington, on that.
So thank you, sir. Thank you.
Before taking questions from the audience, I thought I might ask about some of the accusations that have been leveled against us.
It was his fault.
Well, that's a little general, I guess. But specifically, one officer complained that the provincial troops fired poison to musket balls at them, create wounds that would not heal.
Nails,
rusty nails, stone. On the other hand, the Massachusetts Provincial Congress has complained about the treatment of prisoners taken on Breeds Hill, thrown into a common jail, and not provided medical care. So I wanted to give each of you a chance to respond to these accusations.
Well, as far as the poison musket balls, I do know that once the 3rd charge had began, the majority of our men had run out of ammunition. They were picking up rocks, stones, pebbles, anything they could find to put down the barrel of their musket to fire. I don't know, maybe they picked up a poisonous plant inside as well. I'm not familiar with that. I do know that as far as purposely intending to do it, I find that very difficult.
I grant that, perhaps, although there is an irregularity to your fighting techniques that might admit to such things. I have heard these rumors. I have not seen the effects of them myself. But I will tell you that the effects of musket balls alone are devastating. We have many, many men who are dying of putrefaction and other diseases brought on by the effects of the battle. I fear that the casualties in the end will be far more and far greater than those that have already occurred due to the siege of infection that is now inside of Boston.
So, as a